Okay, here we are. We're ready to take a look at the simulation. Each of you should have received a login to the simulation so that you can kind of play around before the class begins. I'm assuming that you've all read the case study guide. If you've not read the case study guide, please do that before you get into the simulation itself. To get to the simulation, you go to interpretive.com in any browser, put in the information that they gave you as your user ID and your password. When you do that, it'll then take you to the StratSim opening screen. There's a simulation button. Click on simulation, and it will then give you a launch simulation option. All right, so this is the kind of opening dashboard of the simulation. I like to maximize the window so that I get the most the largest viewable area as possible. Dashboard's interesting. It gives you information on where you're currently at on a number of different metrics. You can change those metrics by hitting the edit button, but I wouldn't waste any time with that. Where are you at in time? Currently, this simulation is set up to be showing you the results of period number 8. So this competition is currently underway. If you wanted to take a look at a prior period of competition or a prior year of competition, you could select a prior year from this drop-down list as well and see what the numbers look like in a prior year. Primary place you're going to go and manage the simulation is going to be in the upper left-hand corner. It is the hamburger, I like to call it. We will come back to the simulation multiple times throughout this class in order to drive home some of the teaching points that we want to make very clear to you. So don't feel like you have to understand all this in the first pass through. What I like to do is I like to pay attention to this area over here. This is results and decisions, so I can kind of see what's going on within my company. If I want to know what's going on in terms of the competition, there's a section under here called competition where I can see what products they offer, what technologies they have, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's also a marketplace area up here where I get good information about what's going on outside of our business. Real quick, and again, we're going to come back to this multiple times, but where I like to spend my time, it typically is first looking at, let's say, the financial summary of the competition. So this will lay out for me all the firms that I'm competing against, and it'll give me some high-level numbers in terms of their market shares, their sales, their profitabilities. Anywhere in the simulation where you see a blue underlined link, you can click on that, and either it's going to allow you to make a decision or it's going to take you to get some additional information. So if I click on Firm B, for example, it will bring up then information on Firm B, a more detailed income statement. I can take a look at the balance sheet. I can take a look at the cash flow. So again, you can drill down in a number of areas when you see a blue link. Back to the hamburger, also important to take a look at is the microsegments. This is where I get information about who are the customers that are purchasing the products that we're selling. If I click on microsegments, I can see here a list of all the current microsegments that are buying automobiles. As you remember from the case study guide, the 1E microsegment stands for the value-seeking customer who's buying an economy class car. 1T is the value-seeking customer that's buying a truck. All right, so that's kind of how those play out in terms of the labeling of the microsegments. When you go into a microsegment to get more information, because you can see that it is a blue underlined link here, you'll first be told that you're going to have to pay some money in order to get that information. Do not hesitate to spend $25,000 to get valuable information on a customer that you potentially want to do business with. This $25,000 is a rounding error on a multi-billion-dollar company's income statement. So spend the money in order to get the data you need. So if I click OK, I spend the money. And it brings up lots of good information on the 1T customer in terms of the expected price range, what size of vehicle they like, what their preferred engine size is, what their hot buttons are, and then down here I can kind of see a position map that's kind of showing me graphically where do the various vehicles in the competition line up according to the MSRP, the sales price of the vehicle relative to the vehicle size. And then this is kind of what's known as the sweet spot for the 1T customer. And you can see that right now, many of the vehicles selling to the 1T look to be a little bit too small based upon the size preferences of the 1T. If I go back to the hamburger, other things, if I go in, for example, to marketing, I click on marketing, and here I start to actually see some decisions that I can make. And so if I want to spend more money on advertising the company in the north and having dealers in the north be happier because I'm driving more of the brand awareness of the vehicles, I can click on that and I can double it to $40 million. All right, so that's kind of how you make a decision. Just as a point here, there is no correct approach to how do you run a business, and there's really no correct approach to how you run the simulation. There are some processes and methods that you go through, I think, that are probably more efficient, but a lot of times it is iterative and incremental. But we will give you some suggested approaches when you get into this competition. Also, don't worry about breaking the simulation. The simulation is tried and true, and nothing really is committed in the simulation in terms of your decisions until the very end of the round. Now, I guess the only thing that is committed, as I think about it, is you just spent $25,000 to buy information. So once you bought that information, that's committed. But when you doubled your corporate advertising expense, that you could undo. You could take it back down to $20 million if that's what you'd like to do. So with that, I think you should now prepare for getting together with your team. And what we want to have you do is we would like to have you do a practice round, and I'll explain more about the practice round in another video. Back up to the hamburger real quick. When you are all done, take a look down here on the bottom left, decision analysis, because this is where I can now do a couple things. First of all, I can review the decisions that I've made so far. And so on one page now, I can scroll down and kind of see every department and every number that I've entered in. So that's kind of a nice report to look at. And then secondly, I can take a look at the pro forma projected results. If everything goes according to plan, what will my business look like? So if I click on pro forma, first of all, to generate any pro forma, I need to put in a sales forecast. And so, for example, here, sales forecast, I'm currently forecasting as many as I'm selling. But if I thought, for example, that I was going to sell more or fewer, I would want to go in and change that sales forecast. Once I change that sales forecast, it is this sales forecast number that then helps drive the pro forma results that I'm seeing when I look at my income statement, my balance sheet, or any of the other reports that are there. So keep in mind that bottom left part of the navigation menu is important towards the end of decision making. All right, we'll see you in the next video.